All right, so we have 20 minutes, 4 panelists, and 70 questions. So you're gonna, this is basically Twitter. You're gonna just limit your answers to 144 characters. 70. That's not entirely true. I want to start out with a curveball question. Just in terms of social media and B2B, so LinkedIn is the obvious answer in terms of how to target businesses and making sure that your content is relevant for businesses. Wondering if you guys could talk a little bit about how to be relevant for a B2B audience on platforms like Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, and what role some of those other platforms has for B2B social.
I have a comment. I think that, well, since I'm Emily, by the way, representing T-Mobile small business, a lot of small business now have Facebook pages, and just interacting. You know, when I want to attack a certain vertical, I really go ahead and try and follow them on any type of network that they're on. LinkedIn is the prominent social network that small businesses are on, but I found that Twitter has been the strongest one that I've been involved in.
Hi everybody, I'm Grant Krull. I manage the YouTube network and the SlideShare network for CDW, right on Vernon Hills, and also office in Chicago. And on those areas, what I say with both, what I found, is that you have to really be thinking about your customers and what they want. And I don't mean that as a gimmick. I mean ask them, pay attention to them, see what feedback you get. And don't treat these areas as a dumping ground. Actually pay attention to your metrics and find out what is really working, and forget the views stuff, because somebody can look at something and then leave within a couple seconds. You need to go deeper. Look at who your subscribers are. Look at what people get high likes and dislikes. Look at what basically people want to talk about and ask you questions for. So really treat this as customer care, and that's the biggest thing where B2Bs can really excel in social media.
I'm Adam. Hello? I'm Adam. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Creative Circle. We're a staffing company, nationally based, that focuses really on creative people and helping you all find jobs. That said, we've grown our LinkedIn followers by almost 4x in the last 2 years by really working a content strategy focused on relevancy, articles that we feel target both the candidate and the client communication, and it's worked beautiful. Other social channels we'll talk about later haven't been as successful, but for us, LinkedIn has really been a great channel.
Hi, I'm Colleen from Rocket Ranch. So I'm the community manager, so I handle all the accounts that Rocket Ranch has. For LinkedIn, we primarily use it for a lot of HR purposes. And again, going off of the customer care, it's all about knowing where your customers are. So if, maybe they aren't on LinkedIn, but yeah, I think it's a great resource to find possible hires, and especially in the industry, it's all about making those connections online.
All right. Playing on one of the questions that Billy answered at the beginning, what are some of the risks of B2B being on social platforms in terms of dealing with negativity and customer service issues, and how do you mitigate some of those risks of playing in those open channels where anybody can say what they want?
You hunt them down and kill them one by one. You do not rest until the last one begs for mercy. Okay, seriously. Woke you guys up. My experience is first you validate, does somebody have a gripe? Because at CDW or other companies that I've been with, it's if an order doesn't come out on time. Now, people have a right to complain. This is a problem with B2B, but it's with a problem with a lot of companies in social media. They just treat it as a broadcast tool. They treat it as just PR, and they're not around for the conversation. They're not around to help people. And to me, a lot of people say social media is a party. I say it's a promise, and it's an expectation that you're going to be there. So you have to look at it as, are you setting up expectations that you're not following through on? And is that something that you can turn somebody who's a critic into an evangelist, somebody who just wants to feel like you're listening to them? Because this is an emotionally charged time if somebody gives a crap enough to talk about they're pissed. Take that as an opportunity versus somebody who's a troll and is just going out there to be negative for the sake of being negative. So you have to qualify that first, and you always have to think about it. Don't just apologize. Offer how can you make it better and follow up. That will make some of your best critics into evangelists.
So at Rocket Ranch, all of the managers and all of the venues are trained, and they go through a whole training process of how to handle the accounts when I'm not at the computer. So we take this always on approach. We try not to go dark for hours, a weekend. There's always a manager that has social media or all the apps on their phone so that they can watch all the mentions. So, the most common question is, should we respond to the negative ones or do we just let it go? I say respond to the negative ones immediately and then get to the positive ones. Try to find that person in the venue while that's actually happening. And it's a great way to take that online connection and make it face-to-face. How can we make this better? It's just, I think the negative comments or mentions are the ones that should be tackled first, and turn that into a great mention, great relationship.
From a B2B perspective, we have 19 offices across North America. And what I find fascinating is that the only channel that really gives us a negative feedback forum is Yelp. And I'm not sure how our competition thinks maybe we're asleep at the wheel or not, but I monitor all 19 Yelp accounts, and I find the same critical comment or review posted week after week subsequently across all 19 offices, like I'm not paying attention, and it's a cut and paste from a competitor, office to office to office. So from our perspective, the only one that we have as a social channel that causes a little bit of problem for us is Yelp, and we choose not to engage in an online dialogue, but we take it into an offline forum and turn them from a critic into an evangelist. And when it's a legitimate complaint, we've had phenomenal success.
Yeah, well, being from T-Mobile and one of the major wireless carriers in the industry, we get a lot of criticism on a daily basis out of whether it be coverage, where we're located, cell phone customer service. So it's something that T-Mobile is used to, and it's always addressed and nipped in the butt right away. If it's something on Twitter, it's immediately a complaint that's sent to, up to the top and sent to someone directly to take care of. And showing that, we care about our customers that much and it's taken care of right away really gives T-Mobile more credibility, and people value that.
And I actually have one more thing. Another thing is, what are you doing with these mentions? Because if people are talking to you and you see this and you're not responding, or you don't take that feedback and you bring it back to the managers, and what's really the point of being on social media? It's not so much of the constant selling, it's a huge part of listening. What are you going to do with these mentions or this feedback? You bring it back to the managers and say, this is what our fans are actually saying. This is what they said about last week's special, and bring it back. Do stuff like that. If you're not doing stuff with those actual mentions, then there's really no point to spend the time watching your Twitter feed.
Good stuff. All right, so there's a lot of focus of jumping on the next thing and making sure you're on every platform, every opportunity out there. And in a lot of cases for B2C companies, it makes sense. Experiment, jump at it, put your brand out wherever anybody might be talking about you or wherever there's an opportunity. On the flip side, especially when you're talking about a B2B audience, what are some examples of platforms or sometimes where a brand is maybe stretching a little bit too much to be relevant on a platform? As an agency, how do we stay relevant on Pinterest? Or are there some examples of times where a B2B company might not necessarily want to be playing on all of these platforms, and what are some things to consider when you're trying to figure out where to spend your time?
I really think it's based on the audience that you're trying to target. T-Mobile is a cell phone carrier that everybody is pretty familiar with. But as from a B2B perspective, in my opinion, I just don't see things like Instagram or Vine being really relevant.
Well, when we started doing our program on Grindr, I can say with a sales structure, just kidding. Just kidding, perverts. All right. Actually, I would say on Pinterest, it has worked very well for CDW. We clearly target our audience. We did a Pinterest contest, and it has worked for other B2Bs. But you need a very clear strategy and idea of who your audience is. What are they pinning? In this case, we were pinning tech products they love. And one was for a high-end IT person, one was for a marketer, One was for somebody who basically has control of the budget. And one was just for people that are getting new to tech, since CDW deals with basically the theme is tech, tech we love. And you can be dealing with those who are the nerds to those who are the geeks. And so it's a very clear to understand who the audience is. Just like on SlideShare, that is the sleeping giant. It's B2B visual storytelling. I even have my own SlideShare channel. I've gotten 40,000 views and the ability to track leads through forums. So I always say is that who might be in your space and see what they're doing. Instagram, you can do 15-second clips of your YouTube video, even with Vine. It just means the unboxing works very well, that if you are B2B. So I say anything is possible as long as you really think about it, is that's where your audience is, and then it's time to get creative.
So has anybody in the room ever looked for a job? So we have, again, we have 19 offices. We have tens of thousands of followers on Twitter. So we ran an experiment to see whether or not it was a transactional medium, and we posted really relevant jobs immediately across our 19 feeds. And you know, in 6 weeks of posting 4 jobs a week, do you know how many people responded to a tweet about a job that we had open for a creative person across 19 cities? None. So from our perspective, Twitter is an interesting medium, but as a transactional tool for us to draw qualified candidates in with the hope of us finding them a job, it's turned to be really not valid or worthwhile at all for us. On the other hand, again, LinkedIn, Facebook work incredibly well for us. And if we talk about a category of jobs, we find some interest in Twitter. So from where we sit, Twitter has just never been successful as a transactional medium.
I think a big thing is also taking that risk to see if Instagram will fit into your strategy or your plan, your day-to-day social media needs. You know, maybe it will shock you to see how you can interact with people, but ultimately it's about that interaction. And I think B2B sometimes can maybe not realize the time and the manpower it takes to run a social media strategy and account. You know, I've seen these accounts that have the automated responses to tweets and how horribly it can go wrong. But, you know, that says to me, okay, so you realize how important it is to have those tweets responded to, but yet you're not going to pay someone or take the time out of your day to actually care about what is being said back to these people. I think that's a huge failure.
Good stuff. So as an agency, one of the things we struggle with as we're talking about social platforms and likes and retweets and engagement is tying all of that to real business goals and metrics and money at the end of the day, which is what companies are looking for when they're engaging in any sort of marketing, whether it's social or paid media. What are some of the ways or potentially creative ways that you've tied in, you know, success in social media, which oftentimes the CMO will love it, but not necessarily the CFO. The CFOs will ask a lot deeper questions in terms of how that turned into revenue, where that fits in terms of attribution, turning into sales or leads. So interested to hear like some success stories or how to take these social metrics and turn them into business metrics.
Well, I'm actually representing T-Mobile. We have a social media pilot program going on, running in the Chicago office, where whenever we tweet or send out something, they measure how many leads are generated from that based off of what we put into Salesforce. And, you know, it's really been a success. I can say that coming to this event, I actually met Todor from a tweet that I put on the NRA National Food and Beverage Show. And he came by our booth and generated a ton of business for us. So that's how we've been doing it right now.
So what you've said is about how do you appeal really to different groups that different metrics matter. To a CMO, they're going to be looking at things like views. To a CFO, they're going to be looking at things like sales, or they're at least a lower rate of returns, or customer satisfaction, or better branding in surveys that you do. What I always try to show, like with YouTube, the answer is subscriptions, because YouTube's algorithm is time watched. And subscribers are shown to have 2 to 3 times more time watched, which increases your SEO in YouTube and Google. So that's a term called causality. It says that if we do this, we will be most likely to reach our end goal that appeals to the CFO. Now, the problem is that when you deal with numbers, is that you get lower numbers by staying away from things like views, which can be paid, and then you try to explain the value of having something like a subscriber and saying a subscriber is much more likely to be a customer. So you have to show causality and saying if we get this and tie to things like SEO, word of mouth marketing, and say because if we meet this social metric, that's much closer to business outcome than stuff that might be high numbers. Because what you describe is it's a mile wide and an inch deep. You need to meet them halfway, and then you show you have a true metrics program that says, see, we are now able to prove it, and we're now able to pivot if it doesn't meet our needs.
So I get to be the CMO, so I only argue with myself on CMO-based decisions, and the CFO sits 2 doors down from my office. And we built a matrix because he wasn't very experienced in social media, and the matrix have placed a valuation numerically in terms of dollars and cents on every candidate, on every lead, on every closed lead, and every job that we started or placed. And then we attributed the different social channels, different values, and how their conversion funnels led us to these respective leads. And now our conversations on Mondays for the past week are really easy to have because I can track, and I'll give a shout out to Sprout because they do a great job from an analytics perspective in helping us get there. How they measure up, and on a weekly basis we can change the matrix and the weight we placed in each channel.
So the first thing that comes to my mind with this is, so like I said earlier, every manager goes through a training process of how to take a photograph and capture each dish and the natural lighting and come and create all these awesome specials. So Rockit Burger Bar up in Wrigleyville took a picture of their burger special, put it on social media around dinner time on Saturday, and it ended up just blowing up. We got so many shares, so many comments, so much likes, and we're like, geez, look what's going on? And we just watched it explode. It ended up being our mac and cheese attack burger. Billy Deck was on the Today Show, Good Morning America, Mashable, Perez Hilton was talking about it, BuzzFeed, it was all over, all just because of this one tweet about a burger special that we were having on a random Saturday night. And then it just got to this point where people were coming here asking for it, and so we brought it down here. It was just all because of one tweet. So it's kind of a success story from one post.
I'll take it. And I think we will end there. We're out of time. Thanks again for Adam, Grant, Emily, and Colleen.
I'm keeping my name tag. Thank you.